Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Certification course. Everyone in the auditorium can be seated. Welcome all of you that are watching online from many different areas of this world and also watching here in the United States. And once again, we encourage everyone to download the books. We have a lot of people asking us to send them the files, but please be aware that the files we have up on Facebook right now, it's in the drop-down menu and they're PDF searchable text, so you're able to search those files. And right now you should be able to download the character, the acceptance, the self-control, the respect, and the responsibility unit. Those are the files that we actually send you. And they also have the embedded audio inside of them, the MP4s. So everyone would be able to have that for their teaching. But by all means, I can't encourage everyone enough to get a book. Get a hard copy. I know soft copies are nice when you're studying and you're looking for topics, but when you're preparing to teach and you're wanting to put your notes in a book and you want to be able to come and show the things, connect those dots, you really need a hard copy. That way you'll have something, your notes are written in there. And a piece of advice from all of us that have been up here teaching, don't let anyone borrow your book. If you do, get it back from them when they're done. You lose I know a couple people that have lost years of notes just by letting someone borrow the book and it disappears. We're all trying to become responsible. That's what we're looking forward to, and we're working forward, going in that direction. But once again, we're going to continue on here in the responsibility unit. Tonight, we're going to conclude chapter 4. Going through, of course, we're talking about, what it means to have time management. We've done some self-evaluations to see exactly where we're at with ourselves and how we actually get things accomplished. And, of course, Chapter 4 is entitled Tick-Tock, Tick-Tock, Time Management. And, of course, you feel that way. It's a lot of friends that I have, and they're like family. Not really friends, they're like family. We have certain events that we plan for, and we have a Peaceful Solution one-day event coming up here very soon. And, we always work it, and, you think you got all this time in the world to get things done, then all of a sudden surprises come up, and you're like, man, it's like it showed up a month early. What do you do? Well, it's great that, I tell you, there's people that are so diligent and responsible in the Peaceful Solution. When the last one-day event ended, they immediately went in the next day to planning the next one-day event. And they actually help us look pretty responsible, but they're actually the ones that are responsible, and they do very well with what they're doing. But we also look forward to everyone else joining us. So that's just to make you aware here. We'll announce the date soon. But just in a few more weeks, we're going to have the Peaceful Solution one-day event. And we look forward to everyone joining us overseas, no matter where you're at. It's going to be a great day. Surprise guest. It's going to be a great time. And we're going to enjoy seeing how this program is adapted all around the world. It transcends any religion. It truly can be used in all aspects of life. And a lot of people seeing the vision that the author of the Peaceful Solution, Israel Hawkins, had. And, of course, he was the most responsible person I've ever known in my life. Hardest working person I ever knew in my life. And just getting these things and applying these things and seeing that same vision that he had for a world to be a better place, and knowing that we have that ability to do it, that's what makes everything worthwhile, because the end goal in this is going to be worth every second that was put into it. But going into our responsibility units here, and I hope everyone has a hard copy, we're going back to Lesson Plan 4, page D. Now, William was already in this procedure, but we're going to finish it up tonight. He was in Procedure 5. We're going to jump into Procedure 6, and then 7. And then we should be able to conclude, hopefully tonight, Chapter 4. If not, we're going to get really close to it. Tonight is part of a review, because we're going to get into the What I Have Learned section, so we won't do much of a review of last class for the fact we're going to review the whole chapter tonight anyway. So here, looking at Procedure 6 here, once again, it said guide class discussion by asking the following questions. Has a friend ever kept you waiting past the time you decided to meet? And I guarantee you, I've got a friend right now in Mexico that is laughing very hard, and one in Colombia, and one that has came here recently in the last few months from Mexico, who is here studying now, They're all laughing because they come from an area when someone tells you they'll be there at 9, don't expect them till 10. That everybody tells everybody an hour early. So if they tell you, oh, yeah, I'll see you at 9 o'clock. Well, you don't expect them till 10. That's just the way it's going to go. And that's a cultural thing, I think, because I've learned if they tell me 9, I'll show up at 10, just be there at 5 till 10. I'll be there 5 minutes before they get there. But they're always 1 hour late, perfectly. He's not. And the other ones that I'm talking about are not. They're very diligent. They're on time. But it's the other ones that we work with, and it's always it's a laughable time. But think about for yourself. How do you feel when that takes place? Be here. How did it make you feel? Ask people what it feels like when someone, and I know William was talking about this last class and getting into these things, but think about how it makes you feel, and more, how do you think it's making others feel when we do that? If you're supposed to be somewhere at 5 and you show up at 5:30, you're literally telling someone that 30 minutes of their life just wasn't valuable. And one thing I've learned as you get older, and I'm only 51, sometimes I feel like I'm 91. I'd like to be 31. I'd like to go back and have what I know now at 31. That would sure help a lot. But when you go through your everyday life, and sometimes we feel like, time is endless. But you realize time is not really endless. And there's some things that you could accomplish in a week that through procrastination that William was talking about and other, imagine if everybody procrastinates, you can take a month to do something that could have been done in a week, or you can take a week to do something that could have been done in a day, or you can take a day to do something that could have been done in an hour. But when we affect ourselves like that, well, it's our life. It's we're the ones that have to make the best of our life. But what is it when we affect others like that? You tell somebody you'll meet them, somebody drives somewhere to meet you, and you never show up. Or you knowingly waste their time. There's not a common courtesy to call somebody and say, hey, I'm running late. Think about how that affects others, and that starts getting the emotions that we talked about with the self-control. You can start getting very agitated at people, and of course you start losing trust. And remember, and we'll get to this much deeper when we get into the workplace manual, about how trust is something that must be earned. Respect is freely given, but trust is something that we must earn. And of course that takes place with a lot of interaction, a lot of engagement, and a lot of working through situations. And with that being done, you can really learn to trust someone. So when things are being said, well, no, not that person. There's people I know right now, if they tell you they're going to meet you somewhere at 4 o'clock, even if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, they're going to be there 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, don't show up at 4:05. I had a friend, a lot of us sitting in here had a friend from Trinidad. He was a man that I worked with a lot, and we had peaceful solution classes with him at 4 a.m. in the morning. Every Saturday morning. He had a huge group there, and he did a great job with what he was doing down there with the peaceful solution. Man created a legacy down there with what he was doing. At 4:01, if you wasn't on that computer to teach class, he was letting you know it. At 4:01, where are you at? Did y'all change your clocks up there or something? Did I'm off time or something? And he knew we hadn't. He would be laughing about it. But he was a very prominent person. 4 o'clock in the morning every time. And I learned to admire people like that. And it held me to a standard because I was someone that would be getting on the computer at 4:01, 4:02. And he would remind, hey, I'm supposed to get an hour's worth here. I'm only going to get 58 minutes. And, he did a great job of pointing things out. And I know there's a lot of people here that knew him and worked with him and taught classes with him. And great inspiration and example to us also with the responsibility. But he had a way of letting you know, hey, I expect to have an hour, very politely though. But he would let you know, hey, you were late and you shouldn't be doing that. But he did it very politely to where you would be like, oh, man, that's worse. I'd feel better if you yelled at me. But he never did. Very calm man. But moving on here, it says, explain that managing time effectively shows consideration and respect for others and might prevent conflicts. Well, and it will prevent conflicts. Have students turn to page 73 in their handbooks and read the section the joys of time management. So let's turn over here to page 73. The joys of time management. And remember, this really builds off of respect. This responsibility that we're talking about here, we're really building off what we learned in the respect unit. Self-control plays a huge part, in this. I heard William talking about his alarm clock and how he sets his alarm clock. And, I'm somebody that, for some reason, I do the same thing. If I need to get up at 5:30, I'll set my alarm at 5 o'clock, and I'll hit it twice before I get up at 5:30. Why I just don't set it at 5:30, I have no idea. I literally waste 30 minutes in the bed, waking myself up twice when I plan on getting up at 5:30 to begin with. But I had a father that he didn't even use an alarm clock, and he got up 5 o'clock every morning. That's what occurs when you were raised on a dairy farm and you got up milk cows every morning. That's what he was able to do. So if I don't care what time the man went to bed, it could be 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and he was always working. He was never goofing off or playing around. The man was working. I don't care what time he went to bed, he got up at 5 o'clock. And I've 51 years down, and I still haven't managed to catch up with him, so hopefully one day I will. But here are the joys of time management, and that's one thing we have to look at. It's a joy. It's a joy to get these things down. And as, just refer back to some of the things William was talking about, these things can sound hard if we get off track. And it feels impossible to get back on track if you're somebody that, you're used to getting up, you're used to doing things at a certain time. If you get off of that, it can be really hard to get back onto that schedule, to get back on track with what you were doing. But it is possible. It feels very difficult to do. But once again, it is possible. It says, when you manage time effectively, here on page 73, when you manage time effectively, you demonstrate that you can be relied upon and trusted by others. So once again, we're giving examples. We're actually earning trust by showing people. If I tell you I'll be there, I'll be there. I'll be there at this time. If you can't be there, of course, you let someone know. And you don't want to let someone know that 5:05, hey, I'm not going to make it. I know I'm supposed to meet you at 5 o'clock. So you try to let them know in advance. So you then have a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment because you complete your obligations in a timely manner. People who manage their time well also reduce their stress and frustrations. Knowing where your belongings are, pacing yourself, and being on time can keep your day running smoothly. And you think about, you see this young man here, oh no, I woke up late again, I'm going to miss the bus, where are my jeans, and stuff all over the place. And then you have here this other young man, which would you rather be? Well, I'm on schedule, I have time to eat breakfast before I catch the bus, and I don't know about you, but the way I want to be is the one on the right hand side. The way I actually am is the one on the left hand side. I love things to be organized and to be in their place and everything to be in a working order. But if you ever go up, look at my office that's in here, it's so far from that, it's a nightmare. I have books everywhere right now. Time for me to do my spring cleaning, I think. It's right that time of year to get everything organized. But, you feel much better, whether it's your bedroom, your house, your office, your desk. You feel much better. You feel like you can get more accomplished when things are organized. But who do we have to blame if they're not? Well, it's ourselves. But looking here, it says, and why does it have to be organized? Well, managing your time. If you have a lot of books and they're all put in order and they're on your bookshelf, you don't have to go looking through your stack of books trying to figure out where your books are at. They're all there. And you save time. So that's how we're talking about being organized. Saves time because everything it's in its proper place. You know where to go look and how to find it. So learning to manage your time will not only help you now, but it also in the future. As you mature, your responsibilities will increase, as will your duties and obligation. It is a fact that all employers want people who are timely and who can manage their time properly. And think about that. When you get to work, do you get to work on time? If you're supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock, do you think an employer will appreciate if you're showing up at 8:05, 8:10, 8:15, 8:20? It never helps if you tell your employer, hey, I showed up at 8 o'clock. I know we closed at 4 o'clock, but I'll work to 4:25. I'll make up my 25 minutes. So you're asking your employer to stay another 25 minutes extra because you were 25 minutes late. I don't know if you realize that's not a great thing to ask because other people have other obligations. And I'll tell you how important this is to a business. And this was back when I started working in the furniture factory in North Carolina in 1990 and 91. That was the first place I ever worked where they gave you a bonus for being on time. Whatever our hours were from 7 a.m. to 4:30. And it was a job that you were paid on piecework. It wasn't an hour paying job. And it was a huge factory building furniture. And there was a quota that had to be gotten out. And the quota they sent was almost impossible to miss. They made it very easy. And you were still allowed to be at least 30 minutes late one time a week, and you'd still get your bonus. But they gave you 10% of your total pay for the month. So you can make $200-$300 just because you showed up to work on time. That's all you had to do. And that's how important showing up to work on time was, because I asked the man that owned the furniture business, he owned many factories. He's still alive to this day. He's like 98 years old, a very wealthy man. And in the furniture business, his name is extremely popular. And I asked him one time, I said, you pay thousands of dollars every month for people to show up on time? I said, do you really make that much more money? He said, no, I just make people that much more responsible when they come do their job. And he said that when people show up on time, that he learned in business. This man's been in the business for back in the 40s. Him and his dad started these businesses. He said that he learned when a person shows up to work on time, their mind is more focused on their job, and they come in and do a better job. There's less arguments. There's less stress and friction. But he said when a person comes in late, whatever caused them to come in late comes in with them, and they just make the day a complete hell. And, I thought a lot about that, and I would have spent more time watching and learning because I never really kind of stood back and watched. Back then, I was just, okay, I just want my money for coming on time. That's all I want. But you think about that. That was an enormous expense for that man. He was multi-millionaire, billionaire by now. But it was that important to him just to get people to come to work on time. And people would wait in line to work for that man because of how he did things. So it was an investment for him. So you're talking about things where employers don't want you to show up late, but they'll actually give you bonuses for showing up on time. That's something you promised to do to begin with. Nobody gets a job and says, well, I'll come in late 3 days a week. You're not going to get a job. So think about that, how important showing up on time is. And it might be something where you're not getting paid to show up on time, but I called it, it's like deferred payment. You'll eventually reap the benefits of being responsible. Being a trustworthy person, those things you'll reap those benefits. But continuing on here, it says, to put it simple, no one will pay you just for sitting around and wasting time. That's something we should put in bathrooms. That's something that should be a slogan in many bathrooms of employment. No one wants to pay you for sitting around. But sadly, there's some people that will do that. But as an employer, they want to trust that his employees or her employees are conscientious and dependable. And that's very important. If you're someone that goes to work and you're at work 8 hours and you spend 4 hours in the bathroom a day, you can only imagine how difficult it is for your employer to continue to give you a job. It's very difficult to do that, especially when to pay money, people have to create money. And, the responsibility, think about this. Think about if you're someone that comes in late, you spend 2 or 3 hours a day in the bathroom, and think about when payday comes, your employer would come to you and go, I'm sorry, but I don't have the money to pay you today. It's your responsibility to pay me. Well, I was thinking the same thing about you working last week too, but it didn't work out that way now, did it? Imagine how it would be if someone said, I'll pay you for the time you were working, but you can take off all those hours you were in the bathroom. 3 hours a day. Could you imagine how the person, they'd probably feel like they've been stolen from. But there actually is a theft taking place. Or someone, doing this, always on their phone. You know, I listened to William's class about people that go on that retreat for 3 days without a phone, and I'd like to find out where that place is at. That would be great, because I got 2 phones that never stop. And the numbers I get are like this long. They start out with 3 digits with plus signs in the front. And I know a lot of people sitting in here work with people overseas, and I tell you what, they're the best people in the world to work with. But sometimes, you know, and when someone in Kenya is messaging, and Nigeria and Ghana and Uganda and Zambia, and then you have the UK, and then you throw in South America, you know, and you throw in other parts of Europe, well, none of these people know that you're being messaged by other people at the same time. They're all just using the opportunity that they're given to give you, you know, and these people, I want to give you one thing. The people that take these classes are the most respectful people. No one ever gets upset when it takes a couple days to answer a question. You know, and that shows the responsibility that they're having in developing their character, because they realize things are extremely busy here. And we tell them, hey, if we don't give you an answer in a day or 2, send us another message, and don't hesitate to put down, hey, this is the 2nd time I've sent this, or this is the 3rd time I've sent this. I said, that's not being rude. That's actually being extremely helpful, because if you deal with things like WhatsApp, and if you open up a message and you have hundreds of messages and someone calls you, I don't know if you realize how difficult it is to find the message you just opened when someone called you, because it goes away, and then you're looking through hundreds of messages trying to figure out which one that I just have open. Sometimes you really have to wait till someone sends you, hey, this is the 2nd time I've sent this, I didn't get an answer. You know, and this is the bad things with social media, is once you open a message, people can see you've opened their message. And when you don't reply, some people get upset. You know, and I'm talking about people that are working to actually help spread these positive things. But it's great that we all work together, and you're talking about people that are dependable. We're talking about people that are trying to make the best of their time. That's what we're talking about here, but it goes into so much more than just employment for money. You know, working, doing this peaceful solution, everybody I know does it for free. They give up their life to do this. And I know a lot of people that have given up literally their life to do this job. And they enjoy it, and they wouldn't trade it for the world. You know, and that's the kind of people, we're talking about people getting paid showing up late, but I know people that don't get a dime, and they show up on time, and they're very diligent every day. And that's you want to build trust, you want to build a respectable character, that's one way to do it. It's an awesome way to do it. But continuing on here, it says, so take the initiative, you know, once again, being conscientious and dependable. So take the initiative and begin putting these time management techniques to use in your life. You will improve the quality of your life today and set the foundation for managing your time effectively as an adult. So once again, that foundation, remember, everything is built on self-control, respectful communication. Remember, the foundation for that is respect. Take self-control to have respect. And of course, responsibility. Putting all of these things together helps us develop that positive character. You know, and acceptance is also knowing that when we're not responsible, that people are going to recognize us as not being responsible. And we have to accept that we have to create our own reputation. And we do that. Whether we like that or not, we have to, through our actions, through our words, through the things that we do, we develop a reputation for ourselves. And we have to be those that are, you know, if there's a problem, we'll fix it. If we fell short on something, we'll get it done. And, of course, managing our time effectively and knowing that it's a joy to do it. It's a joy for somebody to show up on time. You know, last class, William did a great job finding out class was 4 minutes from when he found out. He came up here and he did class. But, you know, I'll tell you a secret behind this. The 4 people that come up here and teach these classes have been teaching them. We've traveled the world teaching these classes. So I know he said he didn't teach the book much, but I tell you what, I've got books full of notes from the other 3 teachers. I have one book that's full of notes just from them. And, of course, there's other teachers that used to travel with us that are very busy doing other things right now. But I've got a book that's just from teachers' notes. And I tell you what, I've learned an enormous amount. And when they come up here and they say I didn't have much time, I still get like 4 or 5 pages of notes, because they really have a lot of insight because they've been doing it for so long, and they can tie all of these things together in the book. And that's why we're trying to get everyone to make sure they get all of these books, they put their notes in these books, because, building a positive character takes a lifetime. And we have to be responsible for doing it, but you actually get to where you can start putting these things together, and it helps it become a language. And because sometimes with the Peaceful Solution, when you want to go teach others, when you travel to other countries, when you meet new people, the greatest pitfall you can fall into is you feel like you've got to tell them the whole program in 30 minutes or less. And it took a long time by a lot of us that teach these classes, being guided by the author of the Peaceful Solution, to realize, no, that's not it. You want to put a thought in their mind. Put a thought in their mind and let them realize that, hey, there needs to be a change here. And get them studying, get them reading, get them taking the classes. And the reason I bring that up, because he ended it by saying, and that will make you a responsible teacher. Because you get their minds to thinking about change, about positive change, and how they can be a part of it. And that's one of the things that's helped me, because at one time I was a person that thought I had to tell, from the pre-K all the way up until the parenting manual or workplace manual, I had to describe the whole program in 30 seconds or less. And, that sounds so confusing. It sounds like I'm trying to speak a language I can't even speak, which sometimes can be English. But, that's something that all of these things tying in together, the time management skills, the getting organized. Look over to page 74 and put your finger there. A lot of things I'm talking about right now, we're going to tie it all together, because we're talking about, I call back to your memory in the acceptance unit, we were talking about goal setting. And we talked about people that accomplish goals, they write them down. That goes a lot with our prioritizing and our schedule making that we talked about. And be turning back over with your finger there on page 74, turning back to LP page D. All of this ties hand in hand, and it goes together, and you can't have one without the other. It makes a perfect recipe when we apply everything that we've learned. When we try to take something away, or we try to alter something, and remember when we first started teaching this program in the very beginning of the character unit, it said it's extremely important to teach this exactly as how it's been presented, going through the character unit into the acceptance, onto the self-control, the respect, and the responsibility. And it's very important, because to be a responsible teacher, it's important that it's built upon. If you try to build a house and you decide you want to start putting the roof up before you put the walls up, it's just not going to work. And you would look and think, well, that's completely insane. Why would you do that? That's exactly what it's like to teach the responsibility unit before you teach the respect unit, or before you teach the acceptance unit. You're getting so far ahead. There's so many pieces to the puzzle that is absolutely essential into accomplishing what we're talking about tonight. And here in Procedure 7, it says, ask students how learning to manage their time now could help them in the future. Notice here it says answers could include employees prefer people who are timely and can meet deadlines, and people who manage time well are more productive at work. And that's just one example. There's a number of examples that you can give, for the reasons that people would want to be great time managers. Having people look at you as someone that they can count on, that's another reason, very important reason. Even if you think about in doing business with people, it's a pet peeve for me, and I know in my business I have to give time limits. When someone tells me, we'll have it done for you in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks you haven't heard a word. So okay, well, I can make it another week. I'll give them a call. 3 weeks, you haven't heard a word. So you go by and you see it still sitting in the same spot you dropped it off. People will start having a lot of distrust for you. They won't have respect for you. And there's, that's a way to actually lose, people's faith in you. So, we think about this on many different levels, and every individual in here can have a different example. And it's great for the teachers to actually let the students bring forth their examples, of course, respectfully, not putting down other students in the classroom, but we're looking for examples of education. And then, of course, think about what, I'll tell you one thing that I'll give you an example of that I always laugh at. of responsible decision making. And this is somebody that works for all of us. Every one of us, we're their boss man. And I'm not picking on our U.S. government, but they do work for us. And I laugh every time I hear somebody say, with this bill, we're going to start balancing the budget. Every time I hear that, I go to the U.S. Dot Clock website, the U.S. Debt Clock. I think it's usdebt.org or something like that. I go there, and for some reason, it's still adding up really fast. It doesn't go down at all. In fact, it seems like it's moving faster. Then I looked at it the other night, and I think we were at 34 trillion, some odd billion. And I thought, I could have swore I heard on the news that they said this was going to start reducing the debt. And I went back to look, and all they did was raise their debt limit. They raised the credit limit for themselves. And I thought, well, that should work. Yeah, we'll raise it to 35 trillion. But, these are things to where when you hear politicians say that they're going to save money, it's, I'm not saying they're all liars, but I haven't seen them be honest yet with that. We're addicted to this stuff. And the reason I bring that up, that's on a huge level. And they're responsible to a lot of people, the American people. We put them in office, and taking them out of office doesn't fix it either. So, but think about how they look to us when they do that. They'll think about how we look to others when we do stuff like that. It's the same thing. Might be on a little bit, lesser level. It's really more difficult when you're dealing with somebody you know personally and you feel like they're being dishonest to you or they're wasting your time. So, remember that and remember how we feel when we hear these things. And you never want someone to look at you and kind of laugh when you say, oh, I'll be there tomorrow. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll see you next week. You never want to be that person because you've really burnt some bridges when you do that. Well, going on here to Procedure 8, we're going to conclude the lesson by reemphasizing that responsible people manage their time effectively. They prioritize their needs versus their wants, schedule their duties and obligations, and organize their belongings in order to reduce stress and frustration. In addition to this, they are also conscientious and respectful of other people's time. Have students turn to page 74 and read the section, What I Have Learned. Tell students that effectively managing time shows they are dependable and responsible. So it's not only done with words, it's done also with actions. So turning over here to page 74, we look at the very first bullet point here. It says, evaluating my time management skills will enable me to become more capable at effectively managing my time. So once again, remember what a skill is. We go all the way back to the character unit. We talked about developing habits. It's around page 73 and 74 in the character unit. And we talked about how when we do things over and over and over, we develop a habit. It can be a bad habit, negative, or it can be a positive habit. But we have to make sure we remember accentuate the positive and alleviate the negative. We have to make sure that we're looking to build the things that are beneficial and get rid of the things that tear down. Well, looking over here to page 66, this is where we first started here. And remember, we did, if you didn't do the time management self-evaluation, make sure to go back through page 64 and 65. We can learn a lot about ourselves with that. The one I always laugh at when it says you go to bed. And I see here early enough, it's on page 65, to get 6 and 8 hours of sleep. Is there anybody here that gets 6 hours of sleep? You do? Well, you call me all the time. That's why I don't get 6 hours of sleep. No. No, but, but your health, you really need to get so much sleep. You really is a certain amount of sleep each of us should get. It's rare to get 6 hours sleep, but it's something you should do. It's something I should do, something we all should do for our health, at least 6. But it can be difficult, and it can also, when you don't sleep at night, I'm not saying you stay up late out partying and other things. Sometimes there's just a lot of things to get done. And when you work with people around the world, some people are getting up when we're going to bed. So, you can't really get a hold of them when you're going to bed. So you try to get a hold of each other when you can, and you try to make the best with the time zones and the things that we do. And sometimes you just got to get work done, and you have to accomplish these things to make sure things are Sometimes if you hold up a job, you can hold up another 50 people. You can hold up 100 people because you didn't get something done. So, you think about how all of these things work together, but we still have to make them all work for ourselves too. If you're unhealthy, if we're unhealthy, we're a benefit, to no one. And we're not even in our right mind when you don't get a lot of sleep. But looking here to page 66, we learned that time can be your enemy or your friend. When you have a lot of it, it seems like a friend. When you don't have as much, it seems like an enemy. The author of The Peaceful Solution told me time's like money. When you feel like you got a lot of time, you're smiling, everything's fine. When you feel like you got a lot of money, everything's okay. But boy, when both of them get low, you start going crazy. You try to figure out how you're going to make it work. But here, we started off at the very top with the passage of time is something that most people take for granted. Sadly, we can do that even with our own lives. We can put off, I'll get it done tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. But notice here the next sentence, the second sentence here, it says many people, that's where we're at, right below. It says many people try to squeeze in as many activities as they can in daytime hours. For those of you who have busy lives, it might seem as if time is your enemy. Here we have a little bit more daylight time than normal, and it's going to get longer throughout the next few months. But you often run out of time before you run out of things to do. And I'll tell you one thing that helps with time management, and this is just to give you an idea. Before I started traveling the world, I didn't know this. I was kind of amazed. William, being from Alaska, he was telling us about how some times of the year you can have, it's like dusk for, all day. It lasts for a long time. And to me, that sounded crazy. I never, to me, sun goes down, sun comes up. But where we have daylight savings and we're getting ready to get into a time where our time will go down at 9:30, so we try to cram more stuff into the day to get work done. But there's places south of the equator, the sun always comes up at 5:30 and it always sets at 6:30. That's it. There's no change. It might be off 5 minutes, but it's the same every day. The temperature is always 88 in the day. It's always 65 at night. And to us, we're sitting here thinking, man, that's a beautiful day. But to them, they can't stand it. I'd like to see snow. I'd like to see something cold. And I'm like, yeah, you ain't been to Texas. And then they're, well, I'd like to know what heat is. No, you wouldn't either. In Texas, you can fry eggs on the hood of cars. You wouldn't like it, I promise you. But you learn that no matter where people live, they're always looking somewhere else in the world, liking it better. Even though they've never been there, never experienced it, they're liking it better. The one thing that we have here where we live, and the distance we live from the equator, we experience the hottest of days. We experience the coldest of days. We can experience a lot of water. We can experience a lot of drought. Where we live, we experience things that people that live in other countries don't even have a clue what it's like. I was somewhere here not long ago. It was 65 degrees and people had on winter jackets. And I'm like, this is crazy. They're saying it could get down to 60 tonight. I'm like, man, but in Texas, they're hoping it gets up to 60. And it's really, but you take someone that's never been in something below 60 degrees and put them in 30 degrees. We have teachers from Trinidad that can explain that to you. It's a shock to the body. So what I'm trying to say is what seems normal for us in being responsible and doing things, not that way around the world. We have to learn that everybody adjusts and everything works within the area and the environment you're in. And we have to be respectful of other people's environments, other people's time, and other people's responsibilities, and even the things that they're involved in. We have to learn to make all of these things work together, and that's how time can be your enemy or your friend. It's a lot deeper than that, but we'll cover that as we move forward. Because moving along here on page 66, look at the third paragraph. It says, carefully consider the most important thing you need to do for the day and make a schedule that includes how much time each activity would take. If you stay focused on your schedule, you can make time your friends, if you stay focused on your schedule, you can make time your friends instead of your enemy. You can make time your friend instead of your enemy. And here's some basic steps. Once again, we went over prioritizing, schedule, organize, and focus. And that's what we really went over within this chapter was those four individualize one building on the next, areas. And, one thing I can tell you in putting this together, our scheduler for our meetings in the Peaceful Solution has always been William for years. And we've traveled around the world, and we've been to Washington, D.C. many times. And when you go to Washington, D.C., if you're late for an appointment, you missed your appointment. You're not going to get in. And we've had, this is no joke, we've had events where we went for 5 days, and we would have close to 60 appointments. And the schedule was literally so tight, you had to be from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. And to make that schedule out took an enormous amount of time to be able to make everything work. And I don't know that I ever remember us missing any appointments whatsoever. There was only one appointment that we kind of went late for, and it was for our local senator at the time. It was Kay Bailey Hutchinson, and she was no problem with it because we let her know, and she spent extra time with us, took photos with us. We talked about the program, and then she came to Texas. She came to Abilene and actually visited us. And so, it worked out a lot where we just communicated with people who were very busy schedules on a lot of committees, but it still worked out. But this is something that, it's even in dealing with people, this is something that's been very important for us in what we do and how we do things and how we accomplish things. So once again, going back here to page 74, with evaluating my time management skills will enable me to become more capable and effective of managing my time. Well, and that could be anything you do. Be able to manage this and learning these 4 things. We're going to start with the first one here, looking at, where it talks about prioritizing. If you look at page 74, the second bullet point here, it says, by carefully considering what the most important thing I need to do for the day or making a schedule, I can manage my time wisely. So if you think about your day, what you're going to do for the day, how are you going to manage your day, looking over to page 67, of course, then you're going to have your wants versus needs. And I'll give you an example. We've had meetings, myself and Catan and one of our translators, Carlos. We went to one of the most beautiful places in the world here about 7 months ago. People literally strive to go to this place because it's so beautiful. And, of course, when we got there, it's breathtaking, but we weren't there to sightsee. We weren't there to take on the activities. We were there to meet with people to get the Peaceful Solution established in schools. And the reason I bring this up, want versus needs, because whenever we got there, you wanted to go the bluest water I've ever seen, absolutely beautiful landscape. It was breathtaking. But the place that we had to work was 20 minutes into the city. Wasn't a very long drive. And where we went to work, people had cinder block walls with blue tarps for roofs. They had no sewage and no water. And we're talking about huge communities. And these people were extremely poor. And these were the people that were working at all of these resorts that everybody's coming to have a great time. And I dare say most people that come to that area, to visit that area, have no clue what those people live like or what they have to go through. There's no such thing as running water because they don't even have a water system. And everybody had an outhouse. There was no sewer system. And it was really something to see. But one thing they all did, man, they all had smiles on their face. And they were all willing to be helpful. They were thankful to us for what we were doing. And, you think about wants versus needs. You might want to go out to look at the things, but really in the Peaceful Solution, our greatest want is to want to help people. And that's what we need to do. And your wants and your needs start becoming very refocused. Because where we stayed, most people go for vacation. And I think we stood out. None of us ever stepped a foot on the beach. We weren't interested in stepping on a beach. But I think we looked at the ocean a total of 5 to 10 minutes, and that was it. The rest of our time, we just spent working because it was something that we had to do. We wanted to do it. It was a need that we did it and a want that we did it. But looking here on page 67, we talk about the first step in managing your time effectively is to learn the difference between what you want to do and what you need to do. Things that you need to do are necessary in order to function effectively and to meet your obligations. things you want to do are those things that if you are honest with yourself and are not that important and might in fact hinder you from fulfilling your obligations. So that can actually cause you to not even accomplish your goal. Looking down to the last paragraph, it says, understanding the difference between what you want to do and what you need to do takes careful thought and being honest with yourself. So you have to truly evaluate it and be honest, not about what you want, not about what you want to enjoy, but about what needs to be done. And of course, in the Peaceful Solution, we're learning, if you do what needs to be done, man, that's a great joy. There's nothing greater than being able to know you've accomplished something. But continuing on here, it says, in other words, it takes self-control. There will always be fun activities to pull you away from the things you need to do. This is why you must be willing to practice self-control, because having fun should never come before fulfilling your obligation to yourself and to others. And looking over to the next page here with prioritization, being prioritized or prioritize, at the very top you see it means to decide what is most important and do those things first. You know, here you see it says, once you distinguish between your needs and wants, the next step is to rank the things you need to do based on the order of importance. That is called prioritizing. And then it shows us how to consider our list of needs and what it is we need to do. And then looking here below, it says, often we prioritize our needs without realizing it. Of course, you will need to get dressed before you go to school. You know, that's a great idea. We pick with boys a lot here. We have school uniforms here at the Peaceful Solution, and there's one piece of a uniform a lot of boys will forget. And we have some in reserve for them, but we always tell them, well, we're sure glad you remembered your pants this morning. You know, if you remembered your pants like this other item you're supposed to bring, we'd have a problem right now. You know, and they find it kind of humorous, but, you know, when you have a school uniform that's required for school, it's important that you bring everything. All of your items, shirts and everything else that you need, it's important, and you fall within the rules of the school. Of course, here it says, you know, if you walked in wearing your pajamas, you're going to get some pretty funny looks. Well, yeah, absolutely. However, there might be some variation in ranking, hygiene, showering, brushing your teeth, and eating. Some people base their personal choice, might eat breakfast and then shower. The bottom line is when it comes to prioritizing, some things will be ranked based upon the individual's preference, upbringing, and needs. You know, and I understand that. For me, I was always brought up, you go take a shower and then go eat breakfast. But I know people that go eat breakfast and then take a shower. You know, for me, I wouldn't be able to eat. My face would be in my breakfast. I would still be trying to sleep if I don't at least wash my face, do something to wake me up. Well, keeping that in mind, when we talked about prioritizing, organizing the importance of getting things accomplished, and look back over here to page 74, because then we're going to get into scheduling, what we talked about in discussing the importance of a schedule. And it says, keeping a schedule, and once again, we're on page 74 in the third bullet point. Keeping a schedule will help me keep up with my various activities and help me see how I can fit everything into my day. You know, and once again, when we go on some of these activities, and think about even a school, when you're at a school, especially teachers, you know, they have to organize everything for the day. You know, William gave examples of you get to school at 8 o'clock, you know, you go from that to 8:45, then you may go from 8:45 to 9:30, you know, in middle school and high school, and your classes change throughout the day. Or if you're in elementary school, the teacher has a planner on how she's going to cover each subject at a certain time. You know, so all of these things are set within schedules, and you have to adhere to them. And those things don't change. You know, even as we go to do our jobs in the Peaceful Solution, before we ever leave headquarters here to travel, believe it or not, when we were traveling in motorhomes before COVID, even our gas stops were on a schedule. We had a time, we knew how many miles, everything was done at a certain time. And when we got to where we needed to be, that was on a schedule too. When we left Abilene, Texas, if we were going to Washington, D.C., we knew when we needed to get there and what time we needed to arrive, and we knew everything we needed to do. And we even got, you know, through traveling enough, we even knew how much time we needed to fix the motorhomes that were going to break down that hadn't broke down yet. We got down to where we could figure out how everything was going to work out. Sometimes we got surprised. One time we did get surprised. We got stuck in Tennessee for 24 hours. But other than that, we pretty much got it down. But we managed to get the motorhome fixed and kept going. But these schedules are so important throughout our lives. There's never a time where you're not going to need a schedule. The one schedule that for some reason people tend to know and they live by, which I haven't, I'm kind of like William. I have not watched regular TV in years. It has been a very long time since I've done that. I watch a lot of news, but I never watch it when it comes on. I'm a kind of person that's got it tape delayed because I don't ever have time to watch it when it's being aired live. But people tend to like their TV schedule so much. There used to be a thing called TV Guide. Does the TV Guide even come out anymore? Does it? That shows how long I haven't seen one in years. People used to pay to subscribe to those things. But people, I know, now you got your guide on TV and you can even set your schedule to make sure you don't miss your movie, or you can TiVo it, heaven forbid you miss that. But people tend to know football games, they schedule everything around, holidays or whatever. Those are schedules that people adhere to. They think they're very important. And granted, there are some things you should schedule for that are very important. But then there's some things that actually are what you have to do to make life move forward. We tend not to look at those as being very important. It's like knowing you got a vacation coming up 6 months away and you decide, well, I don't really want to work until I go on vacation. I'd rather go on vacation, then I'll get back to work after my vacation's done. Well, you can't do that, And I won't say anything about vacations, but scheduling here. The third step in learning to make time your friend is learning to organize your duties, chores, and activities. This is best done by using a schedule to keep everything in orderly, easy to follow manner. Many people keep a schedule of what they need to do in their minds. For instance, on a weekday you need to wake up at 7 a.m. and be ready to leave the house by 7:40 in order to catch the bus and arrive at school on time. So once again, having done this for so long, it becomes a habit. Once again, pulling that back into, value, imitate, practice, repeat, rehearse, redo, all of those times, continually doing it. The author of The Peaceful Solution gave a speech one time. He was talking about the great human potential. And in that, he was talking about how mankind, humans, we learn from repetition. And the more we do it, the better we become at it. And that can be positive or that can be negative. But we can actually, we're a kind of an animal, so to speak. Not that we're an animal, but we're kind of a creation where we can actually change things that we're doing that's bad. We can actually turn them into positive through education and through creating habits, positive habits. We can actually do that. But it takes effort, and it takes us, organizing these things. Notice here it says in the paragraph right up above, warning, warning, warning. Making up a schedule and organizing your time takes planning. So take some time daily to sit down and consider what you need to accomplish for that day, and do not procrastinate. In other words, do not put off for tomorrow what needs to be done today. Write it down in a notebook, or as William was talking about, your smartphones here. You got your notepads. I know a lot of people, I have to do that. I have to set things in my phone that will go off and remind me what I need to do. And I still can get to the end of the day missing something, but I use that a lot. In other words, do not put off for tomorrow what needs to be done today. Write it down in a notebook that you have set aside for that purpose. As you accomplish each task, check it off. There's some people I work with that I kind of laugh about when we turn over here to page 70. There's some people that travel from country to country. I have them working on things. We have them working on things in the Peaceful Solution. And there's one person that, they fly from one city to the next doing things in a country for the Peaceful Solution. And the one thing I've learned is I had to go over this book because I've learned that they like showing up to an airport at 7 o'clock if their flight's at 7:30. And after missing 4 flights in 3 months, we finally had to have a talk on how, these flights aren't free and they don't refund your money because you were irresponsible and you didn't show up on time. And the person, I didn't know, but the person actually thought that if you miss your flight, they give your money back and you just book another flight. And after telling them and getting it through to them, they traveled here not long ago. And I got a message at 4 o'clock in the morning. Their flight was 8 o'clock. And I'm like, what in the world? Oh, I'm here at the airport. 4 o'clock in the morning? Well, I don't want you to charge me if I miss my flight. But that showed me that all it took was a little bit of them actually knowing the truth behind something, because they were thinking, that's no big deal. If I miss it, they give the money back, they schedule another one. No, if you miss it, the airplane company keeps the money. And a lot of people don't know this. This is to show you how much you have to be responsible in your scheduling. If you book a flight and you're supposed to fly somewhere and you book a flight into a country or into a city and out of a city, you have a round trip. If you miss your flight, you lose everything. You lose your return flight back too. You don't get that. You have to repay for everything. So think about that. If you ever get sent somewhere with a peaceful solution or an employer sends you somewhere, this is where scheduling is important. So looking here to page 70, it says, remember, keeping a schedule will help you keep up with your various activities and will enable you to see how you can fit everything into your day. And once again, with prioritizing, if you have a job to do in a different city, you have to get to that different city first. That's very important. Seeing everything listed will also help you be realistic about what you can accomplish. If your schedule is jam-packed, which the peaceful solution, if you deal with the peaceful solution, your schedule will be jam-packed. There is no way you can accomplish everything. Then it's time to prioritize, evaluate what must be done based on needs versus wants. And one thing that I can tell you that helps in the peaceful solution that we've covered a little bit before, and this is part of responsibility with scheduling, realizing that you're working with a team and not by yourself. That is one thing that is the greatest thing that we've had here in the peaceful solution is you have a whole group of people that accomplishes a goal, not one person here or one person there. We all work together to get these things done. And the greatest reward, or I would say in the things that we've learned, and this is just because of scheduling and accomplishing tasks. And a lot of you in this auditorium will understand what I mean, that when you're on a schedule and you're wanting to accomplish a task in a certain time, you could say you could be given 3.5 years, 7 years, whatever. Somebody put a time frame on something, but you need to accomplish a task and you have to get this task done. And you have to be, if I got to teach this, I got to be responsible for doing this at this time, then I need to get it done. One thing I give at the peaceful solution, everybody works together. And everybody works together in getting these tasks accomplished, and everybody plays a small role, and these roles, and when I say small role, one might have a little bit more importance than the other, but the one that's considered the least, if that one's not done, it affects everybody else with the organization, the planning, the scheduling, and the accomplishment of a goal. One thing that we had for an example here, was the author of this program was the ultimate example of keeping a schedule, accomplishing tasks, and working endlessly to achieve a goal. And that's one thing that we have here to go by. And, I don't know why I thought I was going to get through this class tonight all the way. But there's so many things that tie into this that, we're talking about individualized schedules, but when you start putting all of these things together, and of course the next chapter is going to help us put more of these things together, there's so much that we need to build trust with each other, and keeping your word at a time you're going to do something is very important. Because every organization, every school, every society has things that need to be done at a certain time. And that's what we're talking about here. And of course, going into page 71, we're going to stop right here. We'll get to the 4th bullet point. The more organized I am, the less time I waste. We'll get to that one starting next class, and we'll finish this out, and we'll get into chapter 5 in the next class, which is entitled, It's Not a One-Time Thing. So we're going to stop right here, page 74, in the What I Have Learned section with the 5th bullet point. The next class is going to be the 20th. It'll be March 20th at 5:30. We look forward to joining back with you at that time. And once again, thank you for joining us.